Okay, so let's talk about how Bernie Sanders is going to win votes in red states. Um, so recently he was in Iowa, and Bernie went where no other presidential candidate has gone before. I mean, he was on it. Okay, so let's talk about the big thing that Bernie did in Iowa. So one of the biggest issues that Iowa is facing is factory farms. I know this is a particularly big topic for me because that's what a lot of my work is around, is factory farming and its impact on climate change. So Iowa has a massive problem with pig factory farms, and particularly the manure management of this. Like, they have these huge, they're like manure lagoons, like the size of football fields, and there are like many of them. And just to give you a scale of how of the problem, the ratio of pigs to humans in Iowa is 7-1. And actually it's 7.5-1, getting close to 8-1. So for every human, there are 7.5 pigs. There's like over 23 million pigs in Iowa. It's the highest pig population in the entire country. So think about that. 7.5 pigs for every human in Iowa. So big ag and big meat have basically taken over. And being a primarily Republican state, particularly the state of Steve King, and I've shared a map of the factory farm system there, and the area with the highest concentration of factory farms, it's like up into the north west side of Iowa, where like most of them are. That's Steve King's area. So Bernie comes into town. And what does he start doing? He starts hammering big ag and big meat, and he starts talking about factory farms. And it's like, what? Like, he went there. Bernie Sanders went there. I can't say, when I was watching the rally on my laptop, and I literally jumped out of my seat and started screaming at the screen. Because, as an activist, I mean, I've been talking about this for like 10 years, and mostly to deaf ears. And I mean, to put some more context, big ag and big meat have been as untouchable in DC like big military. It's kind of like the politicians don't want to talk about agriculture because there's so much money from big ag, big meat, big GMO, right? Monsanto, and so, and I think there's that area of like, they don't want to touch the farmers, although there's a big difference between, the massive big corporate owned farmers and then the small rural farmers. And so that's what, Bernie was going after, was really talking about rural America. And, one of the biggest issues they face right now is that they're getting, the small rural local farms are getting wiped out by the big corporate, giants like Monsanto and Smithfield, Tyson. Like, they're coming in and just steamrolling. They're acting like a Walmart coming into a new town, right? And wiping out all the small businesses. So Bernie is talking about like regulating factory farms. And then he goes on and starts talking about the subsidies and how like the subsidies to the big farms need to be stopped, which I thought was like, whoa, he went there. It's like, no more. And then he went on antitrust and the monopolistic behavior. And that, my friends, right there, huge pain in these red states where most of these factory farms are. One of their biggest pains that even the Republicans won't touch with a 10-foot pole, Bernie Sanders is going right in there. And that's how he's going to start winning a lot of votes in the red states. Particularly like the right-leaning independents and some of the conservatives, who normally vote Republicans, but they're rural farmers, and they're just sick and tired of getting ignored and not being paid attention to. And here Bernie is like, my attorney general is gonna go after these big ag, big companies, because this has got to stop, and this is not fair to rural America. I mean, it's like music to their ears. I mean, me as an activist, I was like, go and hammer, like, go Bernie. Because really, This is an issue that's gone on way too long that nobody is talking. The fact that Bernie Sanders is bringing this up in a presidential race is a big, big ass deal. So, you know, and then he hammered in with stats like, you know, he brought up the Monsanto Bayer merger, right? Which is, I mean, a big thing with GMOs. And the fact that the CEO of Monsanto got a $32 million golden parachute for that merger. And that's a merger that should never have happened, because now they control like over 25% of the global seed supply. Okay, so it's not just the United States, it's in the entire world that this one corporation dominates that much. And like that merger should never have gone through. But it did, because we have a whole lot of like executives from these big ag and big meat, you know, companies in the USDA in powers of position. And, you know, Bernie is really hammering the antitrust and monopolistic behavior, I mean, of these like corporations. So like four companies control all of like meat packing. And then we have like with chicken, it's 53%, you know, big corporations own that, and then 63% of pork is controlled by like a handful of corporations. And then these rural farmers are at the mercy of these, you know, corporate backed big farms. And so often they have to lease, they have to get loans, they go into debt. I mean, it's stressful and it's painful. And nobody's been talking about it until Bernie Sanders has come along. So this really, I was like on Twitter and on social media. I mean, like the news has been spreading, and it's been getting like the attention of people in the red states who have a massive problem with factory farms. So I'm telling you, like, this is how Bernie is going to start winning over. You know, this is an advantage that he has over Trump too, going into the general, because, you know, he wasn't there for them like he said he was going to be. And here's Bernie like coming in. President Sanders wants to bust up the big ag companies and take their subsidies away, which is like, yay. So pay attention as Bernie starts doing more rallies in the red states. He's going to be bringing up the issue of factory farms, and their monopolistic behavior that's wiping out rural America.